today's project, I'm going to finally tackle, and it's dark in here. Dark and wet. Everything is wet. Anyways, enough complaining. We're going to finally tackle installing the Quadratec QRC Stubby bumper. And, I'll film what I can of it, but it is not ideal conditions for being able to see everything. Basically, we have to start by removing a bunch of the plastic covers, and so you got 2 plastic rivets up on top here. There's a whole row of, I think, 8 plastic rivets down below here. All of those have to get removed. Then there's 2 bolts in this guy here, there. I'm going to take that off, and then we'll go after slowly getting the actual main part of the bumper off. So I'm going to pop all those rivets off, and then we'll see in a minute. Okay, so we got that plastic air dam deal off of there, if that's what you want to call that piece. There's the pile of plastic rivets that you have to remove to get that piece off, and a couple of screws. We got the 2 rivets out up here. Our next piece to remove is we need to take this piece off. It's a piece of tin. I'm not sure exactly what it's for, other than maybe just to, makes sense that it's just there to support that air dam. $16mm, so these are 16mm. That's kind of clipped in there. Nothing like dismantling a brand new $48,000 truck. Just brings some enjoyment to you. Okay, we are already to the part of removing the main part of the bumper, or the bumper. So there's 8 bolts or nuts. So there's a pair on each side of the frame rail. So we're gonna zing all those out. Then we just need to unhook the wire harness for the fog lights, or driving lights, whatever you prefer to call them. So I'm gonna get those 8 nuts zinged off of there, and then we'll proceed. I went ahead and disconnected the fog light wiring harness before taking the bumper off, because this connector's right in front of the upper outboard frame to bumper mounting nut. So there's 8 of those studs and nuts holding this bumper assembly on, and they're pretty long-winded, so you can obviously run them off of there with a ratchet. I don't have an electric ratchet, so I've got to bust out my noisy air ratchet. Not very many people use air tools anymore. They're kind of turning into a dinosaur. Please don't fall on me. So in theory, we should be able to just snatch that guy right off of there. But that's theory. Maybe not reality. We're loose. Not sure what all parts of this thing I can grab onto. Oh, there we go. pouring water all over the place. This is what she looks like all naked. Very interesting. Okay, so then the next part of this journey is, unfortunately, you have to completely disassemble the factory bumper to extract the, you gotta tear this whole thing apart just to extract the wire harness for the fog lights. And of course take the fog lights out. So proceed on with that next. So to get to expose the fog lights, these plastic covers have to come off the end. So I'm just going to take these off. They're 7 millimeters. So I'll get all these spun out of here and then we'll see what the fog lights look like. Smoking. And we got another little Christmas tree. There we go. Probably made that a little bit more difficult than necessary. 3 Torx screws holding the light assembly into the bumper. And then, I'm not positive, but I think this tin piece or aluminum, whatever it is, this main structure, I think these 4 bolts have to come out to get the rest of the wire harness out. So I'll sort that out and we'll go from there. Okay, so we do take these are 13 millimeter heads. Oh, the evil chrome socket. Don't explode in my face. That's the tow hooks. Now I see how that's kind of put together. So it looks like we got a bunch of Christmas trees that have to be popped out of here. That's going to take me a few minutes. So I'm going to get that wire harness out and then take the fog lights out. We got our fog light harness extracted, and I took the fog lights out. It's the left-hand one. There's absolutely nothing to these things. They weigh like 1/4 of an ounce. It's kind of interesting. Oh, and the 3 screws that hold these lights in is it's a T20 Torx bit. So I'm going to go ahead and zip this bumper back together so that it can go live out behind the shed or something. Here's a quick shot of the hardware kit. So you got 4 bolts, 4 split lock washers, 8 of the big large area washers, and 4 lock nuts. When you're putting the bumper on, that'll make sense as to where it goes. You can only put that hardware basically in their respective spots. The split lock washers do go on the bolts, so you got a myriad of little washers and nuts and screws, and depending on which model of Jeep that you have will dictate exactly which light that you have. This style bracket, I believe, takes the least amount of hardware and doesn't use these adapter brackets, so it should go together pretty quick. So I'm going to get these lights put in the new bumper, and then the bumper is ready to hang. Okay, so we've relocated to the living room part of the garage, Yes, I need to get this stuff out of the living room so we can get back into the good graces, if you know what I mean. So I have the, I guess what would be, I have the simple, we have the simple version of the driving light / fog light installation, which is a good thing, I think. I don't need those extra adapters, and it takes a lot less hardware. This is all we need is 3 of these screws and 4 washers and 1 of the little nuts, and then we can put that guy together. It's a 2.5 millimeter Allen is the size. The holes in the bumper for this side are threaded. Excuse me. So it doesn't need a nut. This far end, the outboard end, I guess you want to call it, is not threaded. So you're going to have to snake your hand back in there and get that nut and washer put on. I'm going to switch over to plan B. Slide these up in there until I can see it. Okay, and it takes a 7 millimeter wrench to hold on to that nut. So I'll get the driver's side tightened down, and then we'll move on to lacing the wire harness through this bumper. After pondering this for about a half an hour, I went ahead and I took the time to de-pin the passenger connector, driver's connector, excuse me. Passenger's connector is hooked in over there. So I de-pinned this guy, piece of dog hair in there. Takes a small pick or like a paper clip opened up, and you got to release the lock tabs to get these pins out, or sockets in this case. All this stuff's pretty easily damaged, so if you're not comfortable doing that, there's still other ways you can get this kind of tie wrap together. But ultimately what I want to do is I want to fish this wire harness through the main bumper bracket, across the bottom of the winch plate here, and then through this bumper bracket. So really the wire harness is about as secured as you can get and out of the way of everything. So now, I guess I should have explained, this connector is so big that it won't go through these bumper brackets with the brown part of it on there. So I'm just going to carefully snake this guy through here like that. And I think I'm going to go ahead and just leave all these fir trees on here, or Christmas trees, whatever you want to call them, just in case the thing ever were to go back to the stock bumper. One more in there. This guy's gonna plug in up here, so I'll leave that for now, kind of like that. Send this guy through here. Okay, so this is definitely not in the instructions. So I'll probably bring these guys down here. I might even move these Christmas trees and put them through these 2 bottom holes. And then that might take a tie wrap or 2 elsewhere to secure this, but I'm going to go ahead and get that done, get this connector put back together, and this bumper will be ready to bolt on. So just a quick little overview of the semi-finished wire harness. I ran it around the long ways on the driver's side to take up a bit of the slack through this bracket under or inside of the winch plate, and then through the passenger frame bracket. And then I'm not quite sure how I'm gonna do this end yet until I plug that main connector back into the chassis harness. So I'll look at it once that gets done, and then this is about finalized. Okay, after getting some help from the neighbor and the dog to drag this thing through 27 different rooms through the mansion, I've got it out and set into position. We just need to lift it into place. Lifting it into place isn't too bad. Walking around with it's horrible. There's some debate as to how much this bumper weighs. I'm pretty sure the bumper is supposed to be 100 pounds. But what's weird is the UPS shipping label said 72 pounds, so I'm not quite sure how that works. So on the aftermarket bumper, there's 2 bolts sticking out that are welded in place, call them studs. And then on the other side, the outboard side, there's just 2 holes with nuts welded on the inside. So that's why you have the difference in hardware that I showed you earlier. But I don't think there's any better time than now to hoist this guy up on there. Just gotta remember to lift with our legs. Hopefully they don't get knocked off of there. I think we're ready to do this. I don't want to hit this with a hammer. There she goes. Pretty tight. Alright, that looks worlds better already. Alright, I might have to grind some flat spots on these 2 washers because they're up against the frame horns, so I'll do that and then we'll have a look at it. I got these washers modified. You can see I took my 90-degree cutoff motor and just locked off part of that large area washer. It's kind of dark in here, I know. But now that washer fits in there. So the sun has decided to half-assedly come out. I already like the way this bumper looks better already and how much more of the tire is exposed. But here she is in all of her glory out in the semi-sunlight. And I couldn't be more pleased with it. You can see the approach angles. I'm pretty sure the approach angle is quite a bit better. Doesn't do anything for the belly dragging all over the place, but just that one little minor hurdle with the washers at this point of the bracket right here, but that was easily rectified. I don't remember if you guys remember me saying in another video that I did not very long ago. Anytime you're working with aftermarket stuff, there's a pretty good chance that you're gonna run into some kind of hurdle that you have to overcome. It's just part of it. Nobody makes perfect products, so at least it's very rare.
So yeah, I like it a lot. For the price, I don't think it can be beat. So, as usual, if you have any questions on the assembly of this guy, feel free to leave them, and I'll answer them as best I can.